Hello and welcome to Talking Music, where every song has a story. My name's Paul, and on this channel, that's what we like to do, tell the story behind the song. And today, the song in question is this one from Don McLean and American Pie. Now, this song incorporates elements of folk, rock and pop. It's acoustic guitar based, played by Don McLean, and it was initially inspired by the deaths of Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Ritchie Valens in that tragic plane crash in February 1959, dubbed The Day the Music Died. Don wrote the start of the song from his memories of that day. He was 13 at the time, and he was a paperboy in New York City, and he read the headline in a newspaper. The song started out with the aim of becoming an American anthem. He wanted to write a big song about America, mixing music and pop culture with politics, but he wanted to explore that American culture in a poetic or even cryptic way.
I had an idea for a big song about America, and I came up with this notion that politics and music flow parallel together forward through history. So the music you get is related somehow to the political environment that's going on. And in the song American Pie, the verses get somewhat more dire each time until you get to the end, but the good old boys are always there singing Bye Bye Miss American Pie, almost like fiddling while Rome is burning. This was all in my head. And it sort of turned out to be true, because you now have a kind of music in America that's really more spectacle. It owes more to Liberace than it does to Elvis Presley. And it's somewhat meaningless and loud and bloviating, and yet and we have this sort of spectacle in Washington, this kind of politics which has gotten so out of control. And so the theory seems to hold up, but again, it was only my theory. And that's how I wrote the song. That was the principle behind it.
Don has always been reticent to explain the lyrics when asked about them. The only line he has ever explained is The Day the Music Died, which was about the crash that killed 3 rock and roll legends. But in recent years, he has said the song is a bit of a tie-up of US music and politics of the time, seen from his personal point of view, and the song has biographical undertones where he has brought his own life into it. The line "The Day the Music Died," which is possibly the most famous line, is also about his father, whose death in 1961 had a big impact on a young Don McLean who was still only a teenager. The song was written in 1971, and Don made the connection to Buddy Holly in the hopes of bringing a further interest in him. You'll find many interpretations of American Pie, but none of them by the writer. He has said in many an interview that songwriters should make their statements and then move on in dignified silence. The fact that people talk mostly or only about Buddy Holly regarding American Pie is missing the point. The song is a compendium of events and people. The beginning is about Buddy Holly, but when the song gets going, it moves on to different things. Cryptic, yes, but when Don was writing in 1971, America had been through a turbulent, volatile, and exciting few years, and Don was trying to capture the feeling he had about his country. The story of American Pie really is the story of its lyrics, and we can make a good stab at the lyrical content. This line here, from the beginning of the song, is about the plane crash and how, when Don had delivered people's papers, they'd read the headline on the doorstep. The line, "I can't remember if I cried when I read about his widowed bride," refers to Buddy Holly's recent marriage. And the crash took place on February the 3rd, 1959. This line comes from the chorus and could be anyone's guess. Chevys were the pickup trucks that teenagers drove back in the 1960s, and a levee could mean anything really. It's consensus-wise considered to be a gathering or a party, which would mean that when the party had run out of alcohol, then the levee was dry. Music commentators believe this to refer to Bob Dylan. This line brings up certainly three big names in US pop culture: James Dean, The King, Elvis, known as the King of Rock and Roll, and there are pictures of Bob Dylan in a jacket similar to James Dean's from his Freewheelin' album in 1963. And it wasn't long before Dylan's popularity began to usurp Elvis's as he had become more contemporary. And that's where the Thorny Crown lyric comes in. And the closest Don has come to verifying this is by saying that Dylan would make a very good jester. As for the Queen, well, there's no consensus. Possibly Elvis's wife, Priscilla, as kings and queens are usually married to each other, and their marriage was very big news in 1967. Now this line, again, no definitive answer, but knowing the song mingles politics with pop culture, it could refer to the day in May of 1970 when students at Kent State University in Ohio were smoking pot and demonstrating against President Nixon and the continuation of the Vietnam War. The day ended tragically when the Ohio National Guard shot dead 4 students and injured 9. The sergeants could be the Guard, or possibly a reference to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. And also, this line could reference the 1968 Democratic Party convention in Chicago, which, again, ended in violence. This is a famous line, and could refer to the horrific Manson murders in August 1969, where he claimed he had received instructions to carry out the killings in Los Angeles by listening to the Beatles' song Helter Skelter. 8 Miles High and Falling Fast. This is a likely reference to the 8 Miles High hit by the Byrds. And the line "the Byrds flew off from the fallout shelter" could easily mean the group the Byrds, one of their members checking into drug rehab. A fallout shelter was the 60s nickname for a drug rehab centre. Consensus here is that this is Janis Joplin, who died of a drug overdose in 1970. Then there's Lenin and Marx. Is that Vladimir Lenin and Karl Marx? Or is it Lennon and Marx, as in John Lennon and Groucho Marx? And what about the end of the song? The Father, Son and Holy Ghost catching the last train to the coast. Any ideas? What we do know here is that Don was a practicing Catholic, but he was then, and still now, tight-lipped about the meaning of those lyrics. The song took off pretty quickly. The American Pie album was released October 1971, with the single released a month later. The album stayed at number 1 on the US chart for 7 weeks, and the single for 4. Let's look at the US chart. Taking over the top spot there, beginning of the year, 1972, as I say. He was to stay 4 weeks at number 1. Ended up being the 3rd best-selling single for 1972 in the States. Roberta Flack, First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, was the bestseller. But the song really created an overnight sensation in Don McLean. I look at the UK chart, and it peaked at number 2 in March of 1972. 3 weeks at number 2, then 2 weeks at number 3. It was held back at the top for 1 week by Chicory Tip, you can see there, and by Harry Nilsson for 2 weeks with Without You, which was to, in the next week, leapfrog American Pie. The album American Pie sold well in the UK, becoming the 10th best-selling album for 1972. Some other tidbits about the song. In 2001, American Pie was voted by the American music industry as one of the top 5 songs of the 20th century. That really is an accolade. And once when Don was asked what does American Pie mean, he said it means he never had to work again. The song makes $500,000 in royalties each year, and the handwritten lyrics made $1.2 million at auction in 2015. And at 8.5 minutes long, it was almost 3 times as long as any other song playing back at that time. If you can remember back in the charts that I showed you a few moments ago, songs like Harry Nilsson's Without You and Chicory Tip, Son of My Father, you could have listened to them 3 times during the course of listening to American Pie once. The album contained the full version of the song. The single was released as parts 1 and 2 on both sides. Writing songs is a serious business for Don McLean, and he's written some beauties, hasn't he? But he wanted to fulfill himself with his music, not anyone else's, and has been, as a result, critical of the commercial side of record companies.
They want to get you to sing songs that they think are going to be a hit for you, or say things that they think are going to be a hit for you. And I never did that. I never recorded a song that I didn't truly love or that I didn't write, and every word in any song I ever wrote was exactly what I wanted to say. And that took a lot of fighting with producers. Clive Davis is a perfect example. I was signed with Arista Records, and he started feeding me these pop hits that people were doing, and he felt my vocal abilities and the right arranger, and we'd have had a string of these songs. But I don't want them. I can't sing something I don't believe in. That's not what I do.
When the lyrics for American Pie went up for sale in February of 2015, Don said he would reveal the secrets to the lyrics, but again, he gave us little.
People, there's all sorts of things people want to know about. What does it mean? What does that word, that sentence? Do you answer those questions anymore?
Well, I just sold the lyrics.
Yes,
so whoever wants to find out the answers to those questions can ask the person who bought them.
But when you say you sold the lyrics, it's a manuscript, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Which was a guide to the lyrics.
Yeah, just the scratch pages that I used to create the song.
Right.
And nowhere in those pages is Mick Jagger's name mentioned anyplace.
Okay. Well, that knocks that on the head.
Well, the song is big and long. The song is abstract, and it fuses rock, pop, and folk, and had real standout in the charts when it was a hit. And in many ways, it has standout even when you hear it today. And since 1971, it's had us all talking. American Pie, Don McLean. And that's it for this talking music video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button. There are lots more videos that'll interest you about well-known songs and the secrets and stories behind them. In fact, there's another one coming up now, so do subscribe to Talking Music, where every song has a story, and remember, it's absolutely free. And hopefully I'll catch you in the next video. So till then, bye-bye.